What is up, guys? This is Bryce VanHoosen, and what you just heard was the Solidus Randy 250 VST from Audiority. Other than the JCM 800, the Randall RG100 is probably one of the other super classic amplifiers that I can think of that really kind of define the sound of the late 80s and the early 90s. Of course, you had people like Dimebag, who used an RG100 famously for Cowboys from Hell and previous and I think subsequent up until the crank years. You might need to correct me if I'm wrong. But then there were also a bunch of other guys that would use those as just sort of like studio amplifiers, like George Lynch, obviously, and a whole host of other people. So in addition to the JCM 800 being, of course, the great coveted amplifier of the 1980s, the Randall RG100 really is another amplifier that kind of deserves a little more credit than it gets. So what Audiority have done is they have created a VST version of the Randall RG100 as well as the RH150, which was the 2000s version of the RG100. But essentially they've put this together into a really nice VST package for your guitar tone needs. And to be honest, I think it actually kind of sounds a little bit better than the RG100. The RG100 has a special place in my heart because Corey, the other guitar player in Spellcaster, actually used an RG100 around about 2016 on the tour for Night Hides the World. We didn't actually use the amp on the record, but all of the stuff that we did after that, live-wise, had that RG100 in the mix. So it's one of those amps that is kind of got a little bit of a nostalgia for it. So I actually tried to find his RG100, but he sold it a few years ago, unfortunately. So anyway, let's check out the tones that I used to create the demo that you just heard. So we'll step over to the computer here. All right, so for my rhythm tones, I have two guitars that are panned hard left and hard right. So looking at the actual interface for the Audiority Solidus Randy VST, I'm using a preset called Heretic. Now what this comes with, obviously, is, of course, you have the amplifier itself, you have a front end EQ, as well as a noise gate, an overdrive, the amplifier, as we said, an out EQ, which is basically the output of the amplifier, so we're EQing that, and then a really nice IR loaded cabinet system where you can select a bunch of different IRs and different settings and things like that for the cabs that you want to use. So let's check out how that sounds. So of course that really nails the kind of PANTERA, Cowboys from Hell sort of sound. Much better than actually using an RG100, which is sort of ironic. But I have to really give Audiority props here for the amount of just awesome presets and things like that that they have. It's it's amazing. You might not ever actually have to get in here and mess around with the settings on the amplifier itself, because these presets are already engineered to sound as badass as possible. Another cool thing is they actually have presets on the pedals as well. So not only does it come with presets for the entire VST package, but you can actually start dialing in some presets for the pedals. That's for the EQ, of course, as well as this output EQ here. So there are quite a few different settings that you can incorporate if one of those is not to taste. So let's check out some of the other sounds, and we can kind of see what else I could have come up with. Like this hair metal surprise, obviously a nod of the hat to bands like Dokken and George Lynch and things like that. So. So there's some really nice presets that are already just kind of out of the box that you can select to get the best absolute sound out of this plugin. So for the RG150, again, this is the 2000s era version of the RG100. There are a few really cool tones in this as well, such as these black metal presets. Pretty awesome. I wouldn't necessarily expect this to be something that you could select right out of the box, but there you have it. Alright, awesome. So let's step over to do this first solo here. So for this one, I did actually use this RH150 as well as my favorite delay plugin here from Universal Audio. So I'm using the Shreddy McShred lead sound, and that by itself sounds like. So as you can see there, that's a really mid-heavy kind of lead sound. So jumping over to my solo, again with the UAD Galaxy Tape Echo, really like that thing. And this, of course, I went with the warm solo from the RG100 side of things. That by itself. Alright, and there you have it. That is the Audiority Solidus Randy 250 VST. Really nice job on this. It really captures the sound of the RG100 and then some. It's like a better, easier to use version of the RG100. And kudos to Audiority for putting together just an extensive list of presets. Really takes the guesswork out of using VSTs when there's something that you can kind of get in and base your subsequent work off of, I guess. Especially, you know, some of the presets like Warm Solo and Heretic really just kind of nail it for me. So I would check these guys out. They have a lot of other plugins that are suited specifically for metal. In fact, they also have a VST version of the HM2, which I'm gonna have to check out for some of the early Swedish death metal kind of stuff, like Entombed or Dismember, that sort of thing. Really interested to hear that one, so check it out. All links are in the description below, and I will see you next time. Thanks.